Graham, we're gonna do this real
I
life.
love it, and I appreciate you.
No,
Just in
I
general.
appreciate you.
Ew.
This is fun. It's quality time with my girl.
Yes. This is a thing.
It is.
It's a whole thing. Tashara, okay,
Yeah.
so first of all, number one, so you're the second guest that we've had.
Oh, thank you.
But you're the first person that we've had in person.
Wow.
So
See?
if I had to choose anybody to be in person with for the first time, it would definitely be you. For sure.
Thank you.
I'm serious. And we haven't seen each other in so like physically in person.
When was the last time?
Girl.
Was it really Chicago?
Was it Chicago? It was Chicago, girl. That was like 10 years ago.
That was a whole 10
years ago. A whole long time ago. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Her face, and she still glows. And
still glowing.
And she still glows.
It's like we never left.
At all.
It's just that you grew your hair out.
Girl.
That's all.
Come on. And your coils still popping.
I'm not going to tell them about how we got down in Chicago.
Girl.
But we lived. We lived.
Pictures. We got pictures.
Chicago. We lived it up. We danced and we rallied.
Because you had to. If you don't, if you spend, and even what I'm learning now, like with building this business, you can have this super hyper focus. Yeah. But also, if you don't have something to pull you out, your entire world will only be that. And even how you see the world will be through that lens. So whether that is, if I'm heavily on a day of focusing on just problem solving for days. Yeah. I'll be out. Any problem that comes my way, I'll feel like I have to solve it.
Amen.
And I'm like, why? And that ends up draining you. Where's the barrier? Where do you say, nope, we're done. Yeah. This is work is here. Yeah. Life is here. These things, they all exist within me and within the world that I'm now creating for myself. Yeah. But also, I have to know how to separate these things because they are a part of me, but they're not who I am. Right. And if I get so stuck on just problem solve. Okay, well, wait a minute. Number one, I'm not allowing people to help themselves because I'm wanting to I end up being a crutch for other people. Then you end up becoming overwhelmed because you're doing things that you ain't got no business doing. Right. You get up in air. So I'm learning how to cut things off, put up, or just press pause. Right. And be.
Well, because you're a very giving person, and that's always been a part of your personality, is to always share and to pour back into others. You just always really deeply cared about everyone around you and to make sure everyone's fed. So
thank you.
That's the balance of knowing that that's the type of depth and kindness that you have in your heart, and also some time for yourself to recharge.
Girl, yes. Come on. Tashara, I was like, look, when I was thinking about this episode, I said, I know we're going to talk about Kwanzaa. We're going to talk about your creative process, but also just you as a human, right? I was writing your introduction. I said, how do you write? Like, what are the things? I said, well, you could do credits all day. Right. But credits are the things that you've done as an artist, but they don't speak to the art. Right. Even just what you said with the two companies you were in, right? Yeah. You're over here where something is heavily codified, where, artistic liberties are going to be restricted in one way. Right. And then in another space where it might be is heavily collaborative. Right. Very much like rooted in process. We are taking our time. It's not about learning the step. Right. It's about developing the process, and then the steps come out of that. Right. So then going from these two extremes, it's like you can read that and say, okay, this, but when you feel out who you are as a person, you're like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah. It's a whole other different ball game.
It is.
Girl.
Yeah. The versatility. I've been trying to teach it to my students. I'm like, I've experienced such extremes and polarities in my career of like what is valued over here is not necessarily valued over here. Not making it right or wrong, but something just is a different priority. And to be a dance artist, a successful one, and the longevity that I've had in my career has been because I've been able to be adaptable to the new set of values.
Yeah.
And when you can't let go of those values from the previous place, that has been where I've experienced the rejection or etc. because I wasn't able to quickly adapt. You know, and be that chameleon. So when I'm going into new circumstances now, you know, in this later part of my career, I felt far more confident in my ability to say, just pick something off from the other two bells. You know, you don't need to, might not need this particular set of skills, but you might need this one. So you need to pull from that one. And it doesn't mean, I think back in the day, I used to think that meant I wasn't good at the other thing. A limiting mindset. But now I understand, like, no, I'm just choosing to do this aesthetic right now.
Yeah.
And this is what's valued, and this is what I'm being paid for, what the choreographer's asking for. So I just need to go ahead and do that. And if someone asks me for something else, I can and I will be able to do that thing as well. But there's a lot of typecasting that happens where people see you in certain work and they only think you can do that. I think it's a fair thing that I kind of went through of wanting to be seen by different types of choreographers or different types of work, and to know that I could do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all in God's timing, if someone's interested in you and seeing you in a different way, they will. Versus, so
come on,
a journey.
It is.
Yeah.
Ooh, it is, girl. So but you already know this ain't gonna be the first. I'm gonna say this is the first, but it's not gonna be the last.
There we go.
Just of shows, but we already know conversations are gonna keep going, child.
They will flow.
They will. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So let's go ahead. Let's hop into this episode.
Okay.
Episode 2, Creative Process with Tashara Gavin-Moorehead. Hey!
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Okay. Yes. So here's your introduction. Everyone, I want to introduce you to an unabashed and unapologetic artist.
Come on.
Of the people, by the people,
yes,
and for the people.
Yes.
Preserving and upholding the legacy of Black culture by sharing our experiences through performance, choreography, and education.
Come on.
All right?
Come on. MFA.
This woman is Jazzarina.
Come on.
Jazzatina.
Come on.
Jazz around the corner, around the way, because jazz is Black. Let me find the video. Because the people need to see. The people need to see Tashara with that megaphone and the students and you in the streets consistently tell you. People out here, they're like, oh yeah, they about it. No, you ain't about it. You don't know Tashara.
It is what it is.
Oh my goodness. And then also, but not just in your dance, in your exploration, or not to say exploration, your life's journey in jazz, your approach. I love how you're not just teaching jazz dance, but you are teaching it as a practice, as a lifestyle, as a way of living and going about and being and existing. And I don't think we see enough content or information or education around developing lifestyles around different cultures,
right?
Especially when we talk about something as when we say like niche, or very specific, such as jazz. What does it mean to be a jazz artist and a jazz artist through the lens of dance, and then how you ventured off into these other areas with connecting the music and the improvisation, and then even swing. It's like not just the theatrics of it, but no, really at its very beginning, at its origin, you are delivering, exploring, and really pushing jazz to really beautiful things. I'm so serious. And then we also have Kwanzaa. But I just want to dig into your, like, how did jazz come about for you? When did you step your toe in? Like, when did you put your big toe in? You were like, ooh, And then you said, let me just go ahead and stick the whole foot in and just go after it?
Well, my training began, there's a foundational element in my training that started with jazz. I was fortunate enough to be in the ODC program of Virginia Beach, which is like a gifted program for elementary and middle schoolers. And so we did have a jazz teacher there. And then throughout high school, I also, at the Governor's School for the Arts, had a jazz teacher, but they were predominantly of musical theater. They were all musical theater, now that I'm thinking about it. And I always enjoyed jazz. I always wanted to have it more. It was always an elective, so it was never the primary focus. And so like my students experience now, there wasn't a lot of information past musical theater as to the origins of it, the blackness behind it, the Black creators behind it. And I did think that it was for only Broadway, you know, and that's where it was predominantly living.
Yeah.
Also, like, maybe there was a mix of being influenced by, you know, MTV at our era with Janet and Michael Jackson and the street jazz or jazz funk,
but fusion,
all those complex labels that we're still trying to figure out today how those really land with what is going on currently in jazz.
Yeah.
But you see the influence, and you see the syncopation and the dynamics and the polyrhythms and etc. But after that, I would say after the high school training, jazz took a strong back seat. For college. I mean, I didn't take any college jazz class, and professionally I went towards the modern. You know, most Black dance companies are at the foundation are modern, even though the jazz is in there because it's jazz music and it has the lifestyle and the elements of jazz, even though it might be more so modern technique. But I offer that Black dance is in fact under this. Black dance has this element of jazz as its foundation because you're playing with improvisation, you're playing with the get down. You have elements of not only the West African influence, but also street styles. And it's all syncopated and polyrhythmic. And how I'm understanding it is through what I began learning with Jazz Antiqua with Pat Taylor. When I began working in her company about 5 years ago, that was the major shift in my understanding of jazz and the depth of who the authors are and how jazz has impacted the world of dance.
Yeah.
So I credit a lot to Pat Taylor in her philosophy and her teaching and her styles because she went into the depth of the history, the philosophy, and the music. So that's where the ignition lit up for me. And she is such a choreographer that emphasizes your own voice, that being able to improv inside of her works really lit me up. So it was the improvisational aspect that made me be like, hold up, because the modern training that we had in college and even in high school, like it had the improvisational practice, but they're two modern principles and modern understandings, which are all white and Eurocentric. And so when I was in the company with Pat, or in Pat's company, the improvisational aspect and it being funneled through a jazz lens was invigorating. I was like, wait, I've been loving improvisation and I'm tired of doing it like,
come on,
oh, let's just do it like we're solving a set of problems and we're it gets very analytical, and the soul is like nowhere near us, and there's no spirit. But jazz improvisation requires that. It requires the storytelling. It requires you to understand your personal narrative so that you can communicate with the music well. And that's where my research truly began, and how the Kwanzaa, how it blends in.
Because I was like, I know there's a connection. That's gonna be the next,
and that is the connection. Was that this element of improvisation that jazz musicians are playing, and listening to, the fact that they can compose on the spot and make it a 30-minute song, or a track that goes on for 10 or 15 minutes per se, and it does not look like they're solving a set of problems and cues, and it's not dry. I said to myself, like, that is what I want improvisation. That is what I want and desire for my own art. That improvisation we should be able to dance and construct and set choreography in the present moment, just like the musicians do. If they could do it, we could do it.
Literally.
That they know their music, they know the chords, they know the elements of their sounds, and they know their instruments so well. And they know what they want to say so well that they can go in and out of their story. I'm like, that is what I desire for myself.
Come on.
And that shifted me to the Kwanzaa principles of how I could merge an African-American art such as jazz, which jazz is Black, jazz is African-American. That's that. And I specified the American because there is such an erasure in the African diaspora and the world at large with the contributions that African Americans have made, so that other things can take hold and manifest. I will never stop saying the specificity of either Black American or African American. It is American. It is American. It is American. It is an American. And that is that. That is the unique experience that our ancestors had in North America, in the 13 original colonies, which this cultivation of fighting for freedom and liberation is where the spirit of jazz lives. It lives in our DNA. And how can now Kwanzaa, which is set up to be a Pan-African holiday, right? That it highly values African diasporic terms, terminology, philosophy, and practices. But I often get back at that now with my own understanding of, okay, but where's the American? Where's the African American? I don't think that it is bad or lacking to say, I know my roots are from Virginia, Alabama, and Florida. That is where my roots began in this country. And I think it's okay for Black Americans, African Americans, for us to let go of the myth that we don't know where we're from. Yes, our ancestors are from Africa. Yes. And I don't know why people don't know that, but that's crazy, and that's another story. But yes, our ancestors are from West Africa. They didn't get here because they just swam just because they wanted to take a dip in the water, right? We know that it was the enslavement period. We know that it was forced migration. We know that it was captivity. We know this. We have to start we know that. But that is okay if I don't know the exact tribe, if I don't go through some DNA tests to go figure it out. I think that's wonderful that science can do that. But what if we can honor our own history of here in America and our own ethnic group? And I want Kwanzaa to stand for that now as well. I think the African print and the Africanist is beautiful. But I am also American. I'm American. My ancestors built this. Period. My ancestors built this.
That's why we got refrigerators. That's why we got stoplights.
It was our ancestors built this country from the ground up.
Yes.
I don't want anyone, and I want that to stop, that we think that we have to do all this connecting to the motherland, connecting to the and I will not forget and I will not dismiss what my ancestors did for this land and this country. And I think we often do too much erasure of the African American experience. So Kwanzaa for me, and how I am looking at it, is through how can the Kwanzaa principles, through an improvisational practice, how can those things heal and mitigate the issues that we specifically in Africa and African American people have to deal with, that is unique to our own cultural understanding of what it means to be in a country that we built, that we sacrificed, and now and still do not have equal access to all the things that the quote unquote founders of our country said, right? That is what the Kwanzaa principles should be doing. They should be healing us as African Americans. I don't always need, and there's a time and a place for everything. I can honor my ancestry as an African person. But I also equally, the balance is missing, the harmony, which is what Kwanzaa talks about, is the harmony and the balance of all humanity and within ourselves, in the home, with our friends, with our larger community. It's always talking about this balance and this harmony. Well, we need to balance that we are African American.
Come on, sis.
I'm American.
Come on, tell us what we need to do.
If I never see the continent of Africa, just like my ancestors, I need to be okay with that.